Okay, picture this. One of the most critical arteries of global civilization is completely shut down. The world's most powerful navies, they're just sitting there, watching, pretty much helpless, as a tiny 21-mile stretch of water holds the entire global economy hostage. So let's get into how one very unlikely ship might just be the answer.
First, you gotta understand what's at stake here. I mean, the numbers are just staggering. Every single day that the Strait of Hormuz stays closed, the world loses this much money. $1.6 billion. And get this, that's not a one-and-done deal. This is a wound that is just bleeding out, compounding every 24 hours while the world waits and the warships sail in circles. You can see how this inaction has a really steep price tag.
Which, leads to the big baffling question at the heart of all this. With all the aircraft carriers, all the destroyers, all this incredible technology, why is this one tiny strip of water an unsolvable puzzle?
Well, the answer isn't about more firepower. You'd think it would be, right? But it's not. It's about a strategic dilemma, a really unique equation that has totally stumped conventional military thinking. Let's break that down.
So here's the term you need to know: residual uncertainty. It sounds a little academic, but the idea is actually simple. Imagine a massive military operation wipes out, say, 90% of all the threats. Great, but what about that remaining 10%? A hidden mine, a missile launcher tucked away in a tunnel. That tiny possibility creates a risk that no insurance company on Earth will cover for $1 billion supertanker.
And this quote just nails it. It's brilliant. It shows you what the real battlefield is here. This isn't about sinking ships. It's about creating just enough fear to bring commerce to a grinding halt. See, Iran doesn't actually need to win a war. They just have to make the risk too high to take.
And this chart shows you the problem in a nutshell. A supercarrier can give you 90% certainty. For a military op, that's fantastic. But for business, for insurance, you need 100%. That little gap, that 10% of uncertainty, that is everything. It's the difference between an open waterway and a supertanker on fire.
So if a $13 billion supercarrier can't solve this equation, what can? Well, the answer comes from a really unexpected hero, a ship that almost everyone underestimated right from the start.
Meet the USS Tripoli. Seriously, before the ship even hit the water, Congress was calling it a failed experiment. It was criticized by generals, dismissed by analysts. Pretty much everyone saw it as a design flaw, a total mistake. But that so-called mistake is exactly what makes it the perfect tool for this job.
So here's the trade-off that got everybody so worked up. A normal amphibious assault ship, its job is to storm a beach. To do that, it has this thing called a well deck. It's basically a big internal bay that floods so it can launch boats full of Marines. The Tripoli's designers, they just got rid of it. And in that space, they packed in more hangars, more aviation facilities. They basically turned it into a light aircraft carrier, a pocket carrier. And just look at this comparison. For way less than a third of the cost, the Tripoli carries almost half as many F-35s as a supercarrier. But the really critical difference is in those last two rows. It's affordable enough to be considered expendable, which means it can operate much closer to the threat. Places a $13 billion supercarrier would never ever risk going. Okay, so how does this pocket carrier use its unique design to solve the unsolvable? Well, it uses a really clever three-pronged attack that just systematically takes apart that whole equation of uncertainty. First off, it closes the air gap. A supercarrier has to stay 500 miles away, right? Its jets burn most of their fuel just getting to the fight, and that leaves dangerous gaps in coverage. But Tripoli, operating just 100 miles away, cuts that travel time from hours to just minutes. This means its jets can stay on station 3 times as long, shrinking those patrol gaps from hours down to practically nothing.
And with that constant presence, Tripoli's F-35s can proactively break the enemy's kill chain. Think about it. They can spot and destroy a surveillance drone before it even has a chance to send targeting data back to base. And the result? The missile launcher on the ground never gets a target. The missile is never fired, and the tanker just sails on by, completely safe.
All right, problem 1 is solved. But then there's problem 2. 3 heavily fortified islands, Abu Musa and Greater and Lesser Tumb, sitting right in the middle of the shipping lanes. They're bristling with anti-ship missiles and radar, a massive fixed threat to any ship that tries to pass.
Now this is where getting rid of that well deck becomes pure genius. Instead of a slow, predictable amphibious assault, Tripoli uses its MV-22 Ospreys. In the middle of the night, they fly under the radar. They bypass all the minefields. and they land Marines behind the enemy's defenses. It's fast, it's a total surprise, and it's devastatingly effective. In less than 3 hours, those fixed threats are just gone.
So the air gap is closed. The islands are neutralized. The final piece of the puzzle is to create an absolute kill zone. Marines are put on the Omani coast with HIMARS. Those are those super mobile long-range rocket systems. You combine them with the F-35s flying overhead and other ships, and you've created an inescapable web. Any Iranian fast boat, any mine layer, the second it tries something, it's targeted and destroyed.
So you put all of these pieces together, and what do you get? Well, what Tripoli does here isn't just about clearing a path. It fundamentally changes the entire strategic calculation for everyone involved.
And here's the proof. On the 6th day after Tripoli shows up, the first convoy sails through. And what happens? Absolutely nothing. Not a single shot is fired. The fear is broken. The strait is open for business.
This quote just sums it all up perfectly. For 40 years, Iran prepared to fight American ships on the water. They had the perfect game plan for that fight. But Tripoli didn't play their game. It didn't fight on the water. It fought from the air, and it fought from the shore.
And that just flips the whole equation on its head. Before Tripoli, the cost for Iran to fire a missile was pretty low, but the potential reward, global chaos, was huge. Tripoli changed all that. Now the cost of firing is the certain destruction of your assets, and the potential reward is zero. Suddenly, doing nothing is the only logical choice.
And it just goes to show you that sometimes the most complex problems aren't solved with more brute force, but by just thinking about it differently. Which kind of leaves us with one last thought, doesn't it? What other huge, intractable problems are we facing right now simply because we're trying to solve the right equation for the completely wrong variable?